I found myself not in the stereotypical fashion sinking down into the bed, but rising up, as if my chest is being brought up to the very pinnacle of my understanding. I'm here on the coast, and on the coast I'm expecting to make some finds, and I've promised the college that I'm going to. There's a sense that some of the fellows of God's house are there with me, and we're sort of swirling together in a mixture of angels and demons rising up into the air. And then we look down and we see that figure with the mast for a hand, the mast-like hand rising up. And there's this moment where I think, no, that's not a scarecrow at all. It's actually a monument to the sea. And I remember all those monuments up in Scotland on the east coast to wrecks, shipwrecks and lighthouses, and also to the great men, the so-called great men who pushed through the clearances, saw them through, changed Scotland forever, all changed the way of life of so many people. Not so great, perhaps. If I wake, I'm going to feel an urge to go to that trig point, I think, and then the tendrils of these angels and demons woven together begin to become the tendrils of the opium, and I begin to see that they are becoming like the filigree of the lamp that I lit, and they are descending down into the light, and I can hear this scritching, scratching, winding sound as I'm descending.
I think I always knew as soon as I received the postcard that coming away to help another old Odchester fellow, even one I didn't know, would probably bring back some memories. And then meeting Dr. Henry and Lady Marjorie on the train platform, something about 3 companions going out to investigate a remote house, although albeit in a completely different part of the country, really reinforced those fears. But I pushed that to the back of my mind, and of course these 2 companions couldn't be more different from the ones I spent time with in East Anglia. But standing in that room, staring out of that window at the figure on the trig point, I was reminded of a face I saw once before. A red-haired fellow in a hedgerow, straggly long hair blowing in the wind, and a pale moon face. I'll never forget that face. And it all came flooding back. And I know that it's my mind playing tricks on me, of course. Those experiences we had in Ned's place came about because we'd all strayed too far from God in our own ways. And I've refound my Maker. I've reconnected with my faith. My faith is stronger now, and I have nothing to fear. Lady Marjorie and Dr. Henry I know less about, but I know it's my responsibility to protect them from any evil that may be here, and I know that sometimes evil seeks out weakness. So I must push that weakness down and be strong for my companions. That's what he thinks.
The Apocalypse Players present A Residence at the Bay, a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario written by Danann McAleer in the style of M.R. James, with Joseph Chance as Dr. Henry Carrick-Muir, Dan Wheeler as Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon, Dominic Allen as Lady Helen Marjorie Barmere Potts, and Danann McAleer as the Keeper of Arcane Lore. Part 4. Stitched Up Like a Kipper.
And you wake up and you're fine. You're all in the rooms that you were allocated. There's sunlight streaming into them. You feel quite refreshed. And there you are in your separate rooms.
Can I check the time?
Yeah, if you have a watch or a clock.
Yeah, the pocket watch.
Yeah, it's 1 in the afternoon, so you've slept for a huge amount of time.
Fuck.
No.
A lot longer than you're used to sleeping.
Like 18 hours.
Yeah. No wonder you feel rejuvenated.
Can I ask what I'm wearing?
Yeah, you're wearing the clothes you fell asleep when you're wearing. You're wearing your
Okay, right.
your Reverend's outfit.
You're wearing a tatty old pair of trousers with holes and patches and an old jacket.
And you're propped up on a stake and you are a scarecrow.
But I'm not wearing my own clothes.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my own clothes. Am I tucked into the bed, or am I just lying on top of it?
You're just lying on top of it. The other two, you find yourselves in a similar position. You're, you've removed enough to be comfortable, but you're essentially lying in the clothes you were wearing yesterday, on top of your beds.
Is my bag there with the silver tree?
You look down, and it is, yes. And as the other two wake up, you hear a voice saying, "Hey up, Kippers, if you want them, Kippers." And you hear these footsteps retreating on the stairs.
I don't like this at all.
That's fucking weird that he'd be offering us kippers at 1 in the afternoon without, querying the fact that we've slept at 1 in the afternoon. Are there 2 pints still by my bed, where I put them down?
Yeah, they're still there. Bit flat now, but...
I'm not interested in drinking them.
It's the first great delineation between Dan and his character there.
Yeah, good point.
Is there a place to wash in our rooms, or do we have to...
There's a bowl by the mirror.
I'll have a little wash in my room and then probably go across to Henry's room and knock on his door.
I think probably I'll be doing the same thing anyway. So I don't know if we all meet.
I was going to say, you probably come into my room just as I'm stripping my long johns, stripping my long johns off, and I'm standing naked as Christ. And I turn around with lather on and I say, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." No, that's a different kind of show. I think I've just finished bathing, and
I'll say, "Oh, excuse me, Henry."
Not at all, Pip. Not at all.
Can you do you remember much about last night?
I remember I gave you back your pocket knife.
Yes.
Why did I have that again?
Well, I think we may have been trying to jimmy a door upstairs, but that's the last thing I remember. But that was barely 7 o'clock in the evening, and I make it 1 in the afternoon.
Here, close that door, would you, Lady Marjorie?
Henry, tell me, last night, you peeped through the door. Did you see? Was it Robert? Was it Robert in there?
I saw they'd laid on the bed a scarecrow. I think there were rats in there eating the pillows. It was horrible.
What?
Truly horrible.
No, I don't remember. What happened after that? I don't remember a thing.
Don't you see that explains why there was all that scritching and scratching sound? They got in there
Doesn't
somehow.
explain a thing. Who on earth would put a scarecrow in a bedroom and fill it full of rats?
It must be a nest of them. I don't know, maybe it's some kind of strange tradition. Anyway, maybe...
You must ask about it. What?
They do appear to be somewhat fixated with scarecrows in this part of the country. I don't know whether you noticed the scarecrow standing in the field on the way up here, or the one that appeared on the trig point. We never spoke about that, but I think we all saw it.
Yes. They are unnerving.
I very much want to see that one at the top.
I wonder whether we should take up the offer of Kipper's, but maybe get outside and get a bit of fresh air and daylight while we have the chance. I mean, we don't have long left of day. I can't understand why. I've never slept. He's totally discombobulated. I've never slept this late in my life. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is most mysterious. Henry, and he just suddenly turns on Henry and says, "Henry, you didn't. I hate to ask, but you didn't give me anything last night, did you? You know what I'm saying. You didn't. I hate to ask, but."
He nods in a sense which is not saying yes, I did, but in a sense of I understand why you'd ask me that. And he strides over to the door and opens it, calls down, saying, "Aye, Kipper sounds grand. We'll be down in a moment, and then I think we'll take a walk on the cliffs. Freshen our heads. Long journey yesterday. Down in a moment." And then he closes the door and says, "I didn't give you anything, I'm sure of it," and goes over to the bag. But that poise is gone, and he's really looking to see if he has his stash, basically. Because the bag was there, wasn't it? And it looked like the silver tray was there. But everything lives inside the silver tray, which you fold open, including the pipe.
Everything's there as far as you remember it.
What if it wasn't the doctor who gave you something? What if it was our hosts?
Well,
it's a very familiar trope in detective fiction novels.
Yes.
What if it was something else? Aye, but I thought it was this. You'll forgive me, Lady Marjorie. It's a filthy habit, but I picked it up in the Sudan.
Oh, my husband picked up all sorts of things in the Sudan.
Well, quite. Peregrine is somewhat relieved to see when Henry marched over to the door and called down the stairs and set out the plans for the day. It's almost like Peregrine relaxed a bit to see someone, this sort of dynamic masculine figure, take control of the situation, because he'd sort of been a bit lost and a bit out of his depth, and he feels more in control following than leading.
If you could all give me a spot hidden.
You didn't follow my instructions last night, did you? It took me ages to get up the bloody stairs.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, my spot hidden's good. I rolled a 92.
Push it.
I'm going to push it.
Push it. I've passed.
Mine's a fumble.
Oh, great. Well, I'm definitely going to push mine then.
Not by much, but I've passed.
Well, Lady Marjorie, you look at Henry's open bag of paraphernalia and you feel like there's too many slots there. There's something missing. You get the impression with your fumble that Henry's lying, and he has given something to the Reverend.
I'm still a bit sort of confused and shaken, and I say, Henry, will you give me I know it seems crazy, I've only just woken up, but would you mind if I had a little tot of that excellent whiskey you gave me last night?
No, of course. Help yourself.
Take the tiniest little swig of that, just a little sharpener, and then have another look around the room. And that's more like it. And that is what I would call a hard success on my spot hidden.
So, as Lady Marjorie is sort of looking at Henry's bags and sort of concocting her own conclusions, the two of you, it's not the first time you've been in these rooms in the light of day, but the first time you've been in them in the brightest light of day. Like, it was a bit cloudy the day before, and there's a bit more light here. You see above the dresser, there is, and it's almost the same colour as the walls, so it's not exactly pointed out, but you see there is pinned up a map of the surrounding area. And I think with your hard success, Peregrine, you're immediately drawn to the word parish church.
Oh, there's a church not far. How far does it look like it is from? Is there
about a mile? It's on the moors. It's about as isolated as the guest house you're in, just slightly inland of where you are.
Listen, if we're concerned about something that they might have been putting in our food or drink in this place, maybe we should pass on the kippers, or perhaps at least not all of us partake in the kippers.
I agree. I think it would be risky.
I wonder if we should walk out to parish church, and hopefully a fellow man of the cloth might be able to provide us with a small amount of sustenance and maybe some clues as to what on earth is going on here in this location.
Now, Henry, you may be in agreement, but you also were informed by Jack, the fisherman who brought your luggage up yesterday, that the best place for fossils, for the dragons and the beasties that come out at night from the earth, was to carry on down the cliff to Bogglehole itself.
I think Carrickmere again does that nod that he does when he's going, yes, of course, I see what you're saying, but you begin to sense that also means, but I don't agree with you. But he turns to Lady Marjorie and says, do you think Robert was actually here ever? Or is it all just a tissue of lies? He shares it with the Reverend, but
the Reverend's face does what my face has just done, which is like express a sense of revelation that we've been assuming that, well, I've certainly been assuming completely foolishly that Robert was here and then disappeared and someone else wrote this postcard. But of course, the far more likely suggestion is what you've just said, that he was never here at all. Of course, but McCutcheon's unable to articulate this because it's all fizzing around in his head.
Lady Marjorie, you read a lot of detective fiction. Do you think it's that far-fetched?
Well, I have to say, the hole in your theory is that whoever sent those postcards knows Robert, at least. If he wasn't here, they have some connection to him. And they have a connection to us. Or they know of his connection to us.
Well, Lady Marjorie...
Who do we have mutuality with?
Excuse me to interrupt, but... You know, I certainly have been trying to make sense of why Robert would call upon the three of us. And now I wonder whether, if he didn't, if someone picked three names at random from his address book, perhaps that makes more sense.
Well, that would suggest that he has been here.
Well, he was never here at all. Someone, I don't know, picked his pocket and found a list of names and invited 3. You said yourself that the postcard didn't address you in the way that he would.
Well, no, I agree about that.
As you say this, you hear a voice closer than you'd be comfortable hearing, sort of saying, do you want them brought up to your room?
Yes.
No. Sorry. Go on, Reverend.
Yes, please.
All right. And you hear footsteps walking away again.
Oh, I wonder if we should eat down at the table and ask about the photographs of their son.
I have to say I'm ravenous, but I'm anxious about eating the food. I wonder whether one of us should eat at this meal, so the other 2 can keep an eye on them.
And we can test if it's being drugged.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I would point out that you all woke up fine this morning.
Well, we woke up fine, but we fucking slept for 18 hours.
Yeah.
fell unconscious in a hallway.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Woke up in your bed, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not when I went to sleep, though.
Yeah, that's all very well. I'm not
a small woman.
Yeah. The fact that I had a bite to eat, a couple of hours later I fell asleep and woke up 18 hours later in my bed is really not good justification. That's not a way to persuade me to eat again in the same place. Oh, you're not dead. Don't worry, you didn't die.
I wonder if Carrig Muir, who is a doctorate in science, his PhD is scientific study, admittedly paleontology, but he studied geography and science. Is there a chance that he would know anything about? I mean, also given his experience of having pills of opium, smoking them, the difference between an inorganic and an organic high in terms of, I suppose I'm trying to delineate between the effect that we all shared could have been coming up at the same time on some kind of drug, or it could have been well outside of the remit of his experience.
Good question. So are you trying to figure out if the after effect is like something you've experienced in the past?
Do I feel like I'm still on cloud 9 because of...
No, it's really weird. It's like no drug you've had before, not even opium. There's no come down. Admittedly, you've slept for like 18 hours, but the effect afterwards is you feel more vitalised than you have in the past, which I don't think you've ever felt with any other drug. But you do get the impression that it is a drug somehow. That's how your mind works, maybe. You feel like there's something, some external chemical or something involved.
Yeah.
But it's nothing you've experienced before.
I get you. Excellent. So I feel like this triggers a bit of a... He starts to fiddle slightly with his paraphernalia while he's listening to the other 2, and he's even got one of the pills pretty prepared in his hand. He's sort of just turning it over and over in his fingers. I don't know about you two, but I feel like something truly unusual happened here last night.
Yes.
Maybe this warrants just a little bit further looking. I'd like to look at the hole itself, Boggle. So it's got an interesting reputation amongst those of us who hunt the shale and the kist, schism and the scast.
Well,
the scatman and the scoodoo.
Yes, I know them well. Well, I would like to look at the parish church, but given what happened last night, I feel perhaps it's unwise for us to part ways.
From what you can tell from the map, since you're still in the room, Boggle Hole itself, the little inlet, and the parish church out on the moors are about the same distance away. They're both about a mile away. Whereas Robin Hood's Bay is about 2 miles away. if you were looking to like go all the way back to there to like get a carriage or anything.
The problem is, Lady Marjorie takes a long time to get anywhere.
A move rate of 3. More
Could
than
be
enough
worse.
for a lady.
Henry, if you particularly want to investigate Boggle Hole, here's what I propose. I don't know whether this suits the two of you, but Lady Marjorie, if you're hungry, I suggest maybe you partake in the kippers and Henry and I forego them so that we can check that the two of us are compos mentis, just in case. Maybe Henry can go down to Boggle Hole, have a look at the fossils. You and I, Lady Marjorie, could make our way to the parish church, and perhaps there's a local reverend who might be able to shed some light on the situation. It looks like that might be quite a pleasant stroll, if you fancy that.
Indeed. But then in that case, I would insist that we eat our kippers, or I eat my kippers, at the table. So I have an opportunity to ask this gentleman about his family.
Well, in that case, let's descend and catch him before he brings them up.
First, I must have a piss, though.
Well, why don't you just go in the sink? Go in the sink like we did.
You'll have to lift me up.
At least take the plates out first. Well, yes, you make your ablutions, and then you make your way down, and you're in the long, thin room you were in before. And as soon as you sit down at a table, the three of you, the wiry woman June brings out your plates of kippers with little buds of butter on each one, and sort of says, "Oh, they're still warm enough." And
As soon as she's there, I point to the pictures on the mantelpiece and I say, is that your son?
Yes. Yes.
I immediately want to do a psychology roll on her.
Yeah, oh, please, yeah.
The love of God. This is ridiculous. I'm going to push the roll.
Okay. How? Her attitude changes as soon as her sort of sort of quite whimpering sort of here and there and nowhere attitude changes to one of quite stoic seriousness. Maybe that's what makes you sort of reevaluate. I don't know.
Well, I see that. I say, I saw there's a memorial card. I take it he passed. Was it violent? In conflict? King and country?
Tell me how you do.
That's more like it. A pass. A regular
Excellent.
success.
Well done.
So you see her sort of catch her breath, and she says, no, it wasn't violent. It was, he was just a fisherman. He just got caught in a bad storm out there, and it was only 28 when he went, and you see her eyes getting very moistened, and she says,
There, dear.
"Oh, thank you. I miss him every day, you know. I really do.
And so does
thank
your
you for
husband, I'm
taking
sure."
interest." Oh, Peter misses him, yes. He won't talk of it, of course, because he's not of that... You know how men are. But,
Oh, yes.
Would you like me to say some words for him?
oh, at that, she almost grasps your arm really tightly and says, Would you?
Well, let's find out.
I don't know that anyone's said any words for him in that long.
Unfortunately, I failed my theology roll, so I attempt to say some words.
Is that what you're doing, sort of saying a prayer, but you sort of fuck it up a bit?
Yeah, just a few simple words, and I just get it wrong, and I mix some words around, and I don't.
She just, her claw is on your shoulder the whole time, sort of pressing intermittently, and when you finish, she sort of takes a deep breath in and says, thank you, that was beautiful, and
Lovely. And it must be ever so difficult losing a child. I suppose you've kept his room exactly as it was. Is that why it's locked?
yes, that's why it's locked. We don't want anyone in there, and one day maybe, but I'm not ready yet.
Of course.
I was thinking of wandering up to the parish church today. Would you like me to light a candle for him there?
No, that's fine.
Oh,
I mean, you can if you want, but we don't, the Reverend, sort of no offence, you're all honourable people, but we don't get on particularly. Yes, I mean, any prayer or any candle that could be lit would be wonderful.
Could I do a psychology roll, because it felt like her reaction to the parish church was quite sudden?
Yeah, you could.
Oh, yes. That's a hard success. It's the only thing I'm rolling successfully, and it's really bad, my psychology. But
Yeah. You get the impression, this sweet little woman, her eyes just dart slightly towards you, and they get as steel cold as her hair, and she sort of says, "No, don't," and then corrects herself. She seemed genuinely very grateful for the prayer.
yeah.
You get the impression that there's something about the church or the parish that she is not a fan of. You know, whatever it is, you get the impression there's a distinct sort of personal dislike. And, yeah.
Okay. I just... A final thing, if that's all right. I just say to her, would it be all right to bring me some bread so I could put these kippers in a little sandwich and take it for the afternoon, for the walk?
Oh, yeah.
I just put my hand on her arm and say, "What was his name, your son?"
Oh, Billy Crow.
Billy Crow.
Aye.
Why did you got a scarecrow chained to the bed, you crazy bitch?
Christ. She sort of says, "That's right, Billy. Thank you for taking an interest." And she seems genuine, and she sort of shuffles out and comes back a second later with a couple of heels of brown bread and sort of slaps your kippers between them.
That's fine.
And wraps them up in brown paper.
While she's gone, I give a lot of side-eye to Dr. Carrigmuir.
Aye. But she comes back pretty quickly, wraps them up and says, "Well, we'll see you later on then. Don't get lost on the moors. Bye." And she drifts upstairs.
God.
So are you heading out?
Yes.
At least to the front of the house to discuss what your plan is. I don't mean you have to head straight off.
Yes. Did Lady Marjorie eat?
Yes.
Did you?
If that was the plan,
Yeah,
I
you
did.
That was the plan.
Scarfed yours down. You feel great.
As soon as we're outside, I say, Doctor, did you hear what she said? I can't believe it. I was so audacious, and she didn't bat an eyelid. That room upstairs. I suspected it, and now it's confirmed. It is the boy's room. And what you saw in there, she said it is unadulterated since his passing. How does that explain what you saw?
These folks, sometimes they have very strange ideas. I don't know.
Are you suggesting that they put an effigy of him on the bed and it is filled with rats?
Maybe. I don't know.
Why would they need to chain it down?
Well, I don't think the rats are intentional.
Everything is strange in this place, and I hate it.
When I die, lay an effigy of me on my bed, fill it full of rats. That's all I ask. It's a simple request. I'm a simple man.
That's all I want.
Oh, it's like staying in Eastbourne. Horrible.
So let's say you're just out the front of the sort of little walled garden at the front. You know there's a bigger walled garden at the back. You're there in the sort of early afternoon light. The cliffs are ahead. There's the trig point thing that something was standing on or had been propped on the night before. And you know from looking at the map that if you headed inland from here, you'd shortly arrive at the church, it seems. Whereas you also know if you headed to the right along the coast, within the same amount of time, you'd shortly arrive at Boggle Hole, where there apparently are good fossil hunting sites.
Well, I, for one, don't feel particularly comfortable about going anywhere alone. So perhaps if we assist you, Reverend McCutcheon...
Well, I just sort of try and lean into Henry and get out of earshot of Lady Marjorie and say, I honestly can't tell you how much I want to come down there and look at those fossils with you. But I'm not sure Lady Marjorie could make that descent.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I wonder if the three of us should go over to the church.
I think that might be the best option if you don't want to go alone, or you could maybe make a brief trip down there, and we could wait for you here if you think it could be quick. Or
what time is it now?
About 1:30 in the afternoon, maybe 1:15. So you've still got several hours of sunshine.
Well, no, I'm happy to go alone later, I suppose.
how far is the trig point from where we are now?
It's like 20 yards.
Do you mind if I just go and have a quick look at that trig point? I just looked so odd in the evening light last night, and then we'll head straight over to the church as you suggest.
Well, that's a good idea.
You all head over. I mean, it's not much of a walk, considering you're about to walk about a mile.
Can Lady Marjorie make it?
Yes.
Oh, easily. It's very flat.
I'd very much like to see it.
So let's all go and have a look at that.
So as you walk across the sort of stretch of land, it's sort of halfway between the cliff edge and the front of the guest house. Yeah, if it's a trig point, it's oddly near the coast, but it is the crest of the hill, I suppose, so it's not that bizarre. So looking at it, it's basically a white stone block, sort of whitewashed stone block with like you look at the top. There's a square hole in the top, and yeah, that's all you seem to see initially.
I'd love to do a spot hidden. Yes, at last, that's a success. A hard success in my spot hidden.
You know, as a lot of trig points have, they have that hole in the top.
Yeah.
This seems a bit deeper, and you see sort of bits of darkened, splintered wood around the edges of it.
As if something's been wedged in it?
Yeah, but more than that, as you notice that, and as you move around, you see some carvings in it that have been whitewashed over. And there's one towards the very bottom that looks out over the sea. That looks like a very crude figure, and its face is bigger than its body. But you get the distinct impression that it's meant to represent an owl. But there's something slightly off about it.
Can I do an occult roll?
Yeah, maybe.
This is a real fucking long shot.
Yeah, it certainly is.
No, I fail. Bad fail.
No. You don't know what it is.
Well, I was only going to ask briefly if there was anything about the landscape that suggested that there were, that there aren't 4 other raised points nearby or anything like that.
No, that you can see if you scan the area, you basically see that, in fact, the trig point itself, well, you're pretty sure at this point maybe it's not a trig point, but it's a marker of sorts. It wouldn't be able to be seen from the coast unless something was atop it. So maybe it was a holder for something, or...
I don't have any specific folklore, but would there be any value of an insight from, say, something like anthropology or...
Literature. I have literature.
Or history or literature, yeah. I don't have literature, but I've got history.
Oh, it's the owl and the pussycat.
That's a lot of luck. I think
Yeah,
I'm going to push my roll.
I would love that.
And he puts his hand into his rather it's not, it doesn't smell very nice, but it's quite an effective coat, part leather, part tweed, and he pulls a large trowel out of it, and he goes over to the stone itself and starts tapping on it, and then starts digging away at the edges of it.
Aye.
But with like very careful, skilled movements. But it is quite it's quite specific, and he's sort of looking, and then he keeps looking at the hills. He's having a really good dig around.
Well, tell me how you do.
To see if there's anything.
But I'll tell you something regardless.
Lower, because sometimes the sediment rises up, and there might be other symbols down below. It's a 15. I passed. It's a hard success.
Right, so you dig down, and beneath...
It was crazy.
It goes further down, and there's another sigil that looks slightly like There's something owl-like about it. Maybe it's the shape that goes down in the centre of a circular thing with the two. Whatever it is, it reminds you of an owl. And as you're doing it, you get the feeling of being watched. And you, maybe as you're digging down a bit too far, maybe down one side, you turn past the other two and look up to the moors. And there are 5 figures standing on top of the moors, watching you. And you assume they're maybe the same scarecrow type things you saw earlier, but again, as with the one that was on top of the trig point last night, you get the distinct impression they're watching you, even though you can't tell which way they're facing. And you get the distinct feeling that digging is something that may be not the best idea around these parts. Yes. But you've uncovered another couple of little sigils that are whitewashed over. Even under the ground they're whitewashed over, sort of owl-like faces. You get the impression from that moment that you've trespassed upon something.
Well, I think I probably look to the other two and I say, I don't know. I think maybe we shouldn't tamper with this.
Understood. Let's get to the church.
I think he does take a risk, and he sort of leans forward, but it's kind of a stage whisper. And he goes, "Can you see anybody on the ridge over there? More of those damn scarecrows."
Can we?
You do see 5 points on the horizon that you can't quite focus on. You sort of think you can see those. So it does initially make you think, there's people on the ridge, but then you realise you're not in a Western film. You've seen these scarecrows before, and neither of you has the feeling that Henry has.
As we're walking, I sort of say to the doctor, why don't you lead the way to this church then? And Reverend, would you do me the honour of just taking my arm? My feet hurt a little.
Of course, with pleasure.
And as soon as I feel that Henry's out of earshot, I turn to the Reverend and say, I don't mean to alarm you, but I don't think it was the food that drugged us last night. When I looked into the doctor's bag, there was more missing than I think there should be. I think, for whatever reason, he felt... Perhaps in his defence it was to keep us safe. I think he helped us sleep last night. Anyway, just something to be aware of, Peregrine.
As that moment of horrible sort of conspiracy happens, could you all give me a spot hidden as you pass the back of the guest house?
Yes, now it's all happening. I'm going to spend 1 luck to make it a hard success.
I'm going to spend 3 points of luck to make a success.
I've got a hard success.
So all 3 of you, 2 of you as you're having this whispered moment. At the back of the guest house, there's a sort of stone wall garden. And again, like the front garden, slightly bigger, but there's no, doesn't seem to be anything growing there. But you do notice that there are 2 very distinct looking, it's very hard to miss, there are 2 kennels in the back of the garden. Hard successes. You notice that there are chains and collars tied to the wall near the kennels.
That's so blatant. Why would you deny having a dog? That feels very blatant.
You haven't seen the dog?
I know.
They said they didn't have a dog.
There's the trap door.
So this is as you're walking past it. I imagine you share this with each other, but unless, you can always go and have a closer look, but otherwise I'm going to assume, because of time, you're making your way towards the church.
Unless they were being pedants and they meant that we don't have a dog, we have 2 dogs.
Or they no longer have a dog.
Well, that's what I assumed.
Or they have a reason to hide the fact they have a dog. Which seems very strange.
Yes.
As you're saying this, you're crossing the purple and yellow gorse. If Caster was here, I'd have to apologise for bringing back flashbacks, but Lassie is no longer with us. You see over the ridge suddenly the top of this. It's a very small church. It's not that impressive.
Has it got a spire, or is it like a square?
It doesn't have a spire. It's got a square top.
Like Norman.
Limestone built. It's small and old and somewhat crumbling, and you can see another separate little building to its side, which you assume must be the parson or the reverend's dwelling. But you're very close to it now, so...
Looks like a lump of moulded cottage cheese. Left my rifle in the room again. Come on, let's have it then. Let's all go mad.
As you turn the corner around it, there's basically a low stone wall that walls off its churchyard with the gravestones and such. There's a small little swing gate, a little wooden gate into the churchyard. Are you going through? Are you going towards the church or towards the house?
Shall we start at the church?
Do you think it's worth one of us making a circumnavigation?
Tell you what, I'm a lady of a certain age and class. Why don't I go and see if the vicar's in and speak to him, while you two have a quick snoop?
Very well, if you're happy to do that.
If you feel happy doing that, Reverend McCutcheon, I thought maybe the two of you might make a good welcoming committee, and I might be the one snooping.
I think that might be wise, to be honest.
Buddy cop move.
Why don't Lady Marjorie and myself go to the rectory, and you can do a little circumnavigation as you suggest. So Lady Marjorie and myself are going to go and knock on the rectory door, or whatever it is.
And you knock on the door?
Yes.
You don't hear anything back. Could you give me I don't know, there's a lot of sort of hanging ivy and honeysuckle around the house.
Botany?
Yeah, botany would be good.
Yes, that's a hard success.
Excellent. So you know how these things are pruned, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you have to prune them every now and again, and you sort of keep them in check. You could almost make a map as you look at this. It's like a geometric, sort of like a diagram of chaos that moves into
great
other things. You realise that the anything that's been pruned, you see the honeysuckle and you see the ivy, but the leaves and the buds of each are sort of growing back at least double, sometimes triple, almost like as if a modern day reference might be the plants around Chernobyl, but of course that's not a reference that anyone these days would understand.
Someone has found some incredibly powerful manure to accelerate their growth.
There's a lot of horse shit around, basically.
I was about to say the same thing. There certainly is a lot of bullshit in this place.
How dare you get the sense that a lot of the sort of the flora around the area seems to be somewhat mutated, especially when pruned.
Great.
And there's no answer to the knock at the door.
So I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna go around and have a look through all the windows of the house and be nosy.
Yeah, do.
I work my way round anti-clockwise.
You make your way around, and you see into the house, and it seems cluttered and messy, and like someone who's a bookworm lives there. But
seem like it's been abandoned.
No, it looks very lived in,
but there's no sign.
To the point that it might almost be embarrassing for a parson.
But there's no sign of him there.
No.
Well, I hammer on the windows a little bit just to make absolutely sure no one's home.
And then I say, I think that's enough, Lady Marjorie, and I drag her away and I say, let's go and look in the church itself.
Let's cut back to Dr. Henry, who you're just traversing the wall around the churchyard.
Yeah, I imagine like
The perimeter.
getting an idea of the actual building, see if there's any glass of any interest, any particular panes that look.
You get to a certain point and there is a pit in the ground about 10 foot deep at least.
I never get to know the people. I just barely knew the men that I was serving with. My God. And now I like them. I didn't have the money because I needed to finish.
Wow.
It seems cut off at the point where it intersects the church wall. It looks almost like, I mean, if you've got good geology.
It's one of those hazards of the. It's one of those hazards of the job. Unfortunately, it's a very triggering moment for him. If it's a 10-foot pit.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And it's not covered in the dead and decaying bodies of Sudanese warriors who've been shot.
No.
Okay. Well, that's good. But I find myself holding the stone of the wall, perhaps, and gripping it so that my knuckles are white.
Yeah.
And regretting not bringing my bag, but I didn't bring my bag.
You're staring into this pit, and it's half a pit, really. It's like a semicircle, because it really does stop where the church wall starts. But either way, it's deep as shit, and you're...
That is really weird.
You're... Yeah.
Up until that point, I didn't see anything unusual or interesting about the church.
No.
No pane glass with curious Latin inscriptions.
No, nothing. It seems very, like, grey, very limestone, very... No, nothing like that. But as you take a breath by that hole, Lady Marjorie and Peregrine, as you approach the front of the church to sort of see if maybe the Reverend is in there, could you both give me a spot hidden?
Yes, and that is a regular success.
Yes. Hard success.
You see these grotesques, these things around the sort of arch of the church door. A lot of them, you realise, represent owls.
Oh, God.
Those of you with a hard success will realise that at the frontispiece points, the sort of the north, west and east, there is a helm, chest piece and a sword. And as you're realising that, the door opens and this sort of quite worried looking young priest sort of pops his head out and says, "Oh, you're here."
Did you send the postcards?
Yes.
I slap him.
No.
Yes.
How dare you? How dare you impersonate an intimate of mine?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just so terribly worried about your friend Robert and about, well, myself and about all of us here now, and I'm so sorry to get you mixed up in this, but I didn't know who else to contact.
Where is Robert?
I don't know.
I think we better all get inside.
Yes. He says, yes, quite. And he sort of tries to avoid Lady Marjorie as he comes out. But he makes his way back down to the vicarage, the little parson's house. Do you see this happening, Henry?
Is it fair to say that at the sound of meaty imperial slaps landing on an unprotected cheek, and the raised tones of Lady Marjorie?
Yeah, and you maybe see this young parson and think, oh shit, I need to intervene.
I think, I'm not sure if I see that. I think I hear this, and I pull out my trowel, and I sprint round the side, ready to, and then I find them all there.
So you all make your way to the front of the house, and he sort of says, I'm so sorry. Thank you for asking so openly. I don't know how I'd have broken it to you otherwise. But, well, let me let you in. I'm so glad you you figured out my. Of course you did. Of course you did. You figured out my code. That's why I contacted you.
What code?
Well, in the postcards. Of course you.
I turn to Lady Marjorie and I say, it's like it didn't. It's sort of taken me a minute to register, and I say, "How did you know it was him?"
Because he was about to say.
What do you mean he was about to say?
What was it he said?
He said, "You're here."
Yes, you're
And
here.
you said...
He's been expecting us. And the only person who's been expecting us here is the author of these postcards, which is...
If I might say, Lady Marjorie, that's an awful leap from "you're here" to "did you write the postcards?" I'd like to do a psychology check on her.
Just because you're dense.
As Lady Marjorie says,
Excuse me?
you're dense.
If you would chart my intelligence from 1 to 100, you would put it at around 80.
Then why did you
Yes.
work it out?
As the two of them are saying this,
Yes.
this flickering image just rushes through Karen Muir's head of him plunging his trowel deep into the throat of each one of them.
Yeah.
Just one.
And also...
And pumping
Yeah.
blood coming up.
Yeah.
Use logic, man. He said, "You're here, and the only person who could possibly be expecting us here is the author of the postcard," which should be Robert Thompson, but we have already established.
I tried to be subtle. I can't trust the people in this place.
No, I'm not surprised.
They something about them is wrong.
You're telling me.
I thought if you just looked at the postcard and read the first word in every sentence, you'd understand. I thought those were the sort of games that university people played together.
What? And I suddenly pause. Frantically get out my postcard, which I'm going to do right now.
You know, young man, women are not permitted to enter universities, even if they have 80% intelligence. Good as any vicars.
You say as good as any vicar. Not as good as any vicar. As good as the very best vicar.
Best vicar who couldn't work out this idiot's game.
I don't even look at McCutcheon. I just take my postcard out of my pocket and just pass it to him.
Okay, so I look at the postcard and I fear your friend is in danger. I await you, Robert. I fear your friend is in danger. I await you, Robert.
Yes.
Honestly, Peregrine, there's no point working it out now. The man stood here, he could just tell us.
All of their faces to me are the faces of the dead Sudanese soldiers that were in the pit.
If I might say so, young man, that is a very opaque way to communicate.
Well, I wasn't sure how to do so. I've been trapped here so long. And you see him sort of break down into tears almost. And he says, "I'm no longer the priest here. I'm nothing more than the guardian. The poster they put up. I don't know what I am, but either way, no one comes to services. And anytime anyone's your friend was Robert.
You mean was?
Yes.
I spent 2 weeks with him. We spent dinner together every night. We'd discuss his findings of the fossils and the sinkholes around these parts. And suddenly he didn't turn up one night. And I knew he was meant to. And I went down to the guest house and they told me he'd left 2 days previous. And I told them that's not possible because I saw him a day previous. And they got aggressive and they told me to leave. And he left this book with me, and I found your addresses in it, and I'm just alone here. I'm alone here, and I don't know what else to do.
Young man, I feel we should all pray. Let us make our way to the church.
Yes, let's. And he but he has in his hand this journal that you recognise as the Journal of Robert Thompson.